How is everyone doing today? It's Thursday, April 30th, 2020, and my name is Dan Harrison, coming to you. Most of you know me. If you're on this, you know there's a little sort of indicator that I see that shows as Greg opens up the this forum for folks that I can see the counter start to rise, and it goes up to 50 and 60 and so on, and I'm always the one that's thinking, is this really working for folks? Do people still are they still interested? Is this still serving a purpose? And I've said before that we always want to make sure that what we're doing is relevant and that people are appreciating it and people continue to find value in it. Or if not, should we change things around? But I know that there are many people out there that still get their news about NuPath through these forums and rather than thinking about the many people and even our own staff that don't avail themselves of these opportunities, I should really be thinking about all of you that are there today. And after last week on Friday, we had such a great Unity forum, talking to some of the folks from Sheldon Street up in Billerica, and the day continued for me in a positive way because I was able to. I like to call people if I can who have participated as a panelist and thank these staff. This can be nerve-wracking for people. And I talked to Katie and to Aggie both, and they had just were talking about how nervous they were, and but as they finished up, how Katie says, "Oh, my phone was blowing up." Everybody texting her to tell her what a great job she did, and I see it as a form of public or community service to NuPath. I mean, these folks, it does take some courage to come before our community of people and to who knows, like what kinds of questions I might ask. So of course that's probably always a big concern for folks. But thank you to everybody that's watching. I know it means that you have to take some time out of your day, and if you're doing these live and if you're participating in that way, it really, I think, says a lot about your commitment to this organization. I've heard that we've had some people that are working with us as independent contractors, or kind of, you might typically say they're kind of, on the edges of this organization. That I found out recently that one of them in particular has been watching every forum, and and just hearing that alone spoke volumes to me about their interest in this amazing organization and all the people that are that make it amazing. So I wanted to thank everybody again and acknowledge the time that you are setting aside to be with us and to hear about what's going on. Tuesday, I was not able to join you, but I was able to watch it after the fact. And Dan and Sharon, as always, do a terrific job. And the way things have been kind of evolving is that Tuesdays tend to be a little bit more related to some of the specifics, the mobile testing that we've been doing, the number of people that have been diagnosed as positive with COVID, and so that has been kind of more or less the flavor of Tuesday. And then I've been using today to share with you some of the maybe some of my thinking about this terrible pandemic and how our evolving thought is being shaped by new information that we've been receiving, and you know the decisions that we make as an organization and how we assign certain business practice or policy to various needs that we have throughout the organization. That stuff isn't just snapped from. Oh, I wish I could snap from thin air and just just regurgitated from a list of guidance that I've looked up online. A lot of our thinking is something that's in a state of flux, and it changes from week to week, and it's an organic thing that is evolving with new data, with the feedback that I get from a very smart team of people that are helping us think about this. So today I'm going to be sharing with you in a minute, some of our thinking about the hope and the sort of the promise of what the future is going to hold as we begin to hear more and more about states that are reopening, or starting to relax their stay-at-home orders, and how does Massachusetts and how does NuPath fit into all of that, and maybe some of the things that we can start to expect as we start to maybe look to a brighter and a more optimistic outlook for getting to the other side of this thing eventually. Right now we're still pretty much in the thick of it, but uh, there have been a number of things to kind of celebrate this week, and I'm gonna ask Greg to pull up some pictures that I laughed at when I saw them. But this earlier today, we had some professional cleaners that entered our building at 147. This is our home office. Look at these guys. They're in their hazmat suits and they are coming in like Ghostbusters to clean the space. We heard from Dan Lannon that if there's any staff that administrative staff in our business office, I may myself go over there, water my plants because I've been in there for weeks. I need to get in the building. Now's the time to do it. That means the building is no longer serving anybody who has been diagnosed positive with COVID. Aren't those great pictures? I think they're courtesy of Elder Soares. Thank you, Elder, for thinking to take those pictures when these guys entered the building. This cleaning is as additional great expense, and but we need to turn this over to the professionals to make sure that the building is to the best of their ability, to the best of our ability, free and clear of the COVID virus. So if anybody is out there that needs to get into the building for any reason, now is the time. This is the day to do it. As I said, we don't have anybody that's currently there convalescing from COVID or tested positive. It's not to say that we don't still have a few cases that are still recovering from one of our residential programs that we made the decision to keep folks there. But that is this is the first time I think it's been empty since this whole thing started about, I don't know, five or 6 weeks ago. And that's good news. And it's not to say that we're not going to experience any more after that. And there still is a great need for absolute and thoughtful and careful adherence to the guidelines. People need to be wearing their masks. Oh, I was gonna grab one. My aunt who lives in Indiana made me a couple of really great ones, and a little bit more comfortable. But we should all be wearing masks when we go out. We should all be wearing gloves when we throughout the routine of our day. I've been cooking is a hobby. It's probably no surprise to people, but I'd like to cook, and so I've been cooking during the week, and on the weekends, John and I have been delivering meals to his mother and to some friends that are elderly, and so I've been trying to wear gloves and masks when I'm packaging the food, and these are things that I just never had thought of before. But we need to continue to adhere to all the guidance that we've been receiving, and means not scratching your face too. Uh, and yet there is this sort of glow on the horizon of things possibly getting better. We've heard, and I'm not going to go into the details, but on the medical front, there seems to be a couple of promising developments, and various states, as we've heard, have begun to loosen up the restrictions. Now, most of you probably are aware that Governor Baker had a press conference earlier this week, and the original date for the lifting of the stay-at-home orders was to have been, I believe, this following Monday, May 4th. That's been extended, I think, to the 18th, or we're going to revisit that. Governor Baker was very reluctant to commit to another date, and that's because we're making these decisions as we according to what we see in the statistics. The U.S. Total number of confirmed cases continues to rise. We're at over 1 million now, with 61,000 deaths. And globally, we're over 3.2 million with 228,000 deaths. And in Massachusetts, we have 60,000 cases, and that's up certainly from the 47,000 that I talked about last week, and with 3,400 deaths. So, and Governor Baker got into it in much more detail than I'm going to today, but there's a number of factors that the CDC has really stressed for the various states and regions of this country to take into consideration when thinking about relaxing the restrictions that have really ground our economies to a halt and have put so many people out of work and caused so many stressful situations. But we continue to hear that the stay-at-home and the social distancing orders have had a major positive impact on the continued spread of this pandemic and of this virus. And every day I read and listen to the news and trying to stay abreast of things, but we're hearing we're gaining more of an understanding about how this virus works, how it's communicated throughout communities, and how some of the therapies may what some of the more hopeful therapies may be in controlling this. Before I go on to the next step, I did want to take a moment just to acknowledge the two folks that we had that passed away this past week. I know Dan and Sharon talked about that, but Joyce Paulison and Frankie were beloved members of the Westford family and of the NuPath family, and I just felt the need to once again mention their names. That these are people that that are no longer with us. And I was talking to somebody today, and it was somebody that doesn't have as much contact with the organization, but they were asking whether or not we'd lost anyone, and I shared with her that we had, and this is real. Like, last week I talked about trying to put a kind of a face to these statistics that we hear about people dying, and as long as it's not something that's near to us or dear to us, it just seems to be sort of out of sight, not of mind. But I'm gonna tell you guys something. If it's happening to you, if it's happening in your family, if you lose somebody that you really love, it's the worst thing. It's the worst thing as a human being that you'll experience. I've had the occasion in my life to long life now, but to lose. I lost a brother to a car accident many years ago, and it was probably the worst thing I've ever been through as a human being. And I lost my father 3 years ago or so, and I still miss him every day. And as I've shared with you, I'm very worried about my mother, who is okay. There's still COVID cases like all around her, and it feels like she's on this stringy little island that you don't know how she's going to get away with it. But losing somebody we love is just like the ultimate human tragedy. And for everybody who's out there that has lost somebody, and for all the staff that work closely with the people that we serve from NuPath that have passed away, and to their families, I just want to express my deepest condolences. Some people believe that everything happens for a reason. When you're going through a painful experience like losing somebody that you love, it's hard to believe that's true. I have felt that if there was anything I've learned from my losses in my life, it's that I would gain empathy and increased understanding and appreciation for what others are going through when they lose people. So I've always I've really kind of carried that in my heart, and I know that it's a big deal, and losing a life is not something to kind of gloss over, although it becomes easy to do when you're hearing about it from a distant perspective. But we don't want to do that as an organization. We want to continue to remember each life as a life that is worth mentioning and considering. So I want to acknowledge a couple of good things that have been happening. We talked about the cleaning and saw those pictures. Last week, I think it was when we talked about it, but we have seen a recent kind of resurgence in some of the giving and charitable giving that our wonderful community has made possible for us. We had to postpone our walk. We did that early on, but we did get the generous contribution from Phil Carter and the Carter Foundation of $50,000. Phil Carter's been beloved member of our family for many years now, and has donated a lot of money to NuPath that has assisted us over the years. Typically, he does this during the walk campaign, and we've seen in the past that he's used it as an opportunity to kind of inspire giving from our larger sort of community. But we're so grateful to Phil that he didn't make us wait until the walk, whenever that may be rescheduled for this money, because we need it now. We talked last week about some of our financial losses during the first 3 months of the year. And as we go into the end of April, we know this is going to continue. The other person I'm just going to mention by name, I don't typically do this so much, but is the Tahir Chaudhry, who is the father of one of the folks that we serve in our residential day services, who's kind of emerged as somebody that has been inspired to help us out during this difficult time. And there's more than $6,000 that he says is coming from him and Goldman Sachs and a friend of his. And just these two. I know there's others, but during a time of such uncertainty financially, and when we hear that 1 in 5 or so or people are unemployed now, or are on the verge of being unemployed, or are working irregularly. During this time of great need, it's inspiring, and it means so much to me as the CEO of this organization, because I'm a bit of a worrier. People know that. I guess you'd be worried about me if I wasn't worried, because it's part of my job to think about things that other people maybe are not aware of or considering all the time. It's been a huge encumbrance, and something that has caused a great amount of stress on for all of us. That's for certainly for people that have been furloughed from this organization, know the stress of that. But as we think about this time of great financial distress across really a global distress, to know that there are people out there that are so willing to give charitably to organizations like NuPath means so much to me. And on behalf of the organization, we thank you. And those of you who've chosen to give. Next week, we're going to actually start thinking about giving some rebirth to a campaign to think about giving to NuPath. And it's just another way that we feel that we will maybe we need to optimize as any kind of an opportunity that's going to help this organization get through this time and emerge on the other side healthy and fiscally stable. And so we can get all those people back that we furloughed, and get people back to work that haven't been working consistently, and for people who have been working in different locations throughout this pandemic, get them back into their sort of home ports, as it were, and back to their regular workforce. I want to take a minute now to again give credit to a variety of staff that have agreed over the past 6 weeks of this pandemic to work in our new Boston Street location. I think I was supposed to do that earlier. Sorry, Greg. We talked about the heroes that have agreed to put themselves directly in harm's way, or at least I guess I'd say in greater harm's way than most of us are comfortable doing. I kind of like the new Boston Care Center logo. That's really cool. Maybe it's Connor who did that for us, but I'm just going to read these names because they deserve to be applauded, and for our gratitude. Tracy Bellistri, Nick Evans, Mark Augustin. I missed him once before early on. Of course, we've heard from Beth Sheehan. We've seen her. There's Faith Nimley, Patrick Noonan, our friend Ken Zinabaldi, who we've all heard from before, Kathy Ahern, Mike Edwards, Tammy West. I got an email from her, Kristen Valier, Robert Sawyer, and Stephanie Cormier. These are these are our heroes as an organization that have committed during the past number of weeks to resign themselves to working these 12-hour shifts, to distance themselves from their families for periods up to 2 weeks, where they have not gone home for any reason, where they've had to stay in a hotel, and then have had to quarantine themselves for 2 weeks to make sure that they did not become infected and didn't have a positive test. You guys, for all of you out there, you are going to, if we minted money, you guys would see your faces on our coins, because we are so grateful, and you deserve the highest honors from this organization for being willing to step up to the plate. I've got a meeting on Tuesday night. I called a special kind of virtual board session that I'm asking all of our board members to be present for, and we're going to be doing kind of a COVID update. And I'm going to tell you guys now that your pictures are going to be put in front of our board members. If they don't know you, we're be prepared for us to get to know you. We'll it'll be this Tuesday night, but if you see your smiling face up here on this screen, then you know that I'm going to be talking to you at some point as we go into the rest of this year and beyond, because you have you have done something physical. You've done something that's very direct and overt, and that sends a message to people that you were willing to step up when we needed you most, and that you were willing to take risks that others weren't, in order to be there for our men and women when they needed them the most, when they needed somebody to care for them, and to be beside them, and a familiar face during a time when they were sick and suffering with the COVID virus. So thank you guys. You're all terrific, and we want to express our appreciation. So what I want to spend a little time on through the rest of our time together here is to talk about some kind of good issues in a way, as we start to think about some of the challenges of opening back up for business. Now we're not there yet. And I said earlier in this broadcast that we're going to be taking our guidance from Massachusetts, from Governor Baker, from the CDC, from our own primary funding source, which is the Department of Developmental Services. So guidance will be coming out that we'll learn more from. But I thought I wanted to just share with those of you who are kind of on the line, and I hope there's a number of families, because this is going to involve you guys too, that starts to kind of prepare all of us for what it's going to be like when it's time to begin to relax some of these stay-at-home measures, and start to return to some sort of a normal pattern or normal rhythm of existing. Because if there's anybody out there that thinks that you're going to hear a message from me or from anyone that says, okay, it's over, go back to work, that's not going to happen. I know it's not going to happen, and the reason for that is because we don't have a vaccine yet for this terrible virus. And not only do we not have a vaccine, we don't really have the testing at a level where it needs to be, where we can continue to track who may become exposed to this. So fundamentally, the thing is to remember is that even as we start to talk about and to think about and to prepare for a future when we will be opening up our day programs, or opening up our residential programs for families to, after many weeks, being able to reunite with their children, it's going to come with some pretty restrictive, in some cases, measures. Now, here's what I think. I think that when most of you have been sharing, just because it's part of what I've been going through, but my own mother I haven't seen for now over 6 weeks, and I miss her like crazy because I love her, and she's very medically fragile and compromised. And I talk to her, I don't even know, like 6, 7, 8 times a day, and she's very frustrated. And yet I know when I finally get a message, God willing, she gets to the other side of this thing, that when I hear from Benchmark that family members are able to start to come in, this is what I'm expecting. I'm expecting to hear that in order to do so, I'll probably have to have my temperature taken before I enter the building. I'm probably be given a gown. I'll probably have to wear gloves. I'll probably have to wear a face shield and a mask. I'm expecting that they may limit family members' visits to 15 minutes or 30 minutes or maybe even less than that at the beginning. I am certainly expecting that I will not be able to have dinner with my mother in the main dining room, which is something that I enjoy doing. I used to stroll in there anytime I wanted and have lunch or dinner with her and sit at her table with her friends and shoot the shit and just and that is not going to be happening. I'm sure it's not going to be happening, and I don't want it to, frankly, because that is my mother's still at grave risk, and all of the people there that are fragile and in their elder years are I wouldn't never want to put any of them through that kind of a risk. So what I'm expecting is that gradually there'll be more and more access, and as more medical intervention and until a vaccine can be developed and administered, because even after a vaccine is safely developed, it could take months and months before the production is at a level that everyone or enough people have had it for it to be effective. So that means that we're going to be looking here at NuPath in our programs at probably some gradual startup measures once we start to hear that, and again, we'll be taking our guidance from the from what we hear from our officials, but it is going to be a while, I think, before you as families that are listening to this broadcast are able to return to your normal patterns. I think that once we begin to lift some of the restrictions, we'll be allowing opportunity for visitation. But if you're thinking that you're going to be able to take your child home for the weekend or have them away from the program and then return them to our care, that may not be what reality dictates when we get there. No, I'm not trying to get into an argument with anybody. I'm trying to, and I'm not, I'm not expressing policy right now, but I am wanting to try to, keep people, centered and in a place of reason as we think about returning to a normal life. I've heard people that I respect and people that are much closer to the medical and public policy development around this thing that get, it may be until the fall of 2021 before we look anything close to what we once resembled before this all happened, and that's related to sporting events and the arts and movies and so forth. This is affecting everybody on Earth. So just wanted to kind of get it into people's heads, and this is in response. Actually, we had some conversations this past week. I'm not going to use names, but we've had somebody who lives in one of our programs residentially that their business has asked them to return, and there's somebody that was working competitively in the community, and so it presented this whole philosophical debate, let's say, and I am pretty probably more transparent than anyone should ever be, but I'm just talking to you as a person here and saying that we don't have the answers to everything. And so as some of these things come up, we really kind of debate them. We do it under the lens of our mission and what our mission dictates. And I love it when staff sort of respond back and use our mission to kind of challenge decisions that are made. So this person was called to come back to his business, and somebody's vacuuming outside the in my foyer. I hope it's not gonna be too noisy, but figures. This person was called back to his business, and we said, well, it's we aspire to having our people treated normally and not to have any special accommodations made for them because they've got a disability. We don't want them to be infantilized. We don't want to have a double set of standards. And so why should this person go back to work? He's going to use all the protective devices when he's there, and so then the question was, well, the family wants to know if he's going to work, he might as well be able to go home, and why would he be able to go home, And so it kind of put all of these questions into play that we need to answer. And so, my response back to that was, well, yeah, maybe he is safe at work. I don't know, but is it right for him to go to work and then come back into an environment where in this case, I think a couple of the folks have already had tested positive and had gone through COVID. We don't know for 100% whether or not the antibodies are going to prevent these people from getting it again. And I said, okay, well, if this person was living in a home, let's say with three other housemates or four other housemates that were unrelated, say this person didn't have any kind of a documented disability, and one of the housemates said, I'm going to be working and I'm going out, but everybody else in the house had resigned themselves to stay at home and to abide by the orders. And those housemates might say, you know what, do what you want to do, but you're not coming back here. You're not living here anymore because we don't want to take the risk that you're going to be bringing back this virus into this home. And there's a very good chance that those people might have said, we're not willing to take that risk. And that person might say, well, I can't be without a place to live, so I'm going to tell my employer that I'm not going to be able to. And just as NuPath has had many of our staff that since this whole thing came down have not been to work. That's been for various reasons. In some cases, it's been because of kids that are home and are caring for somebody with an illness, or they themselves have been ill. But we've had people tell us that they are not willing to work with a population that is tested positive with COVID, or even to come into one of our residential programs, even if the risk is minimal. So so in that case, I guess what I'm saying is that we're trying to figure this out as we go along. Yes, we want people to be reunited. Yes, we want the clients that are living in our homes and in our care to be returning to their places of employment. And I want nothing more than the joyful day when our families can reunite with their sons and daughters throughout this organization. But we are not going to do that at the risk and the peril of the employees that are working in these programs and to the other clients that are living in these homes. And I know there's always going to be some risk, and as we return to a normal world, whatever that may look like, we're going to do so at a pace that we believe is safe, and that's going to protect and respect the hard work and sacrifice that so many of us have made already. It's not going to do anybody any good if at the first chance we get that the doors to all of our residential programs are thrown open, every family coming and taking their kids off to their homes, and I want to keep the family safe, but if the people that are care are going to out of our care and out of our sight for visitation with their families, we can't be certain that that they're not being exposed to the virus again. And the last thing we want, as we try to think about rebuilding the structure and the network of supports that this organization provides to so many people, the last thing we need is to have a resurgence of COVID throughout our programs after all that we have done and all of the sacrifice and the I'll say it, hardship that we've endured together. We don't want that to happen. And so to the families, I say your continued patience is appreciated, and well, frankly, it's necessary. I know there are many cases that people will want to argue with me, that will perhaps argue with the manager of the home or with the director. But I am the one that is going to make ultimate decisions about how we structure our policy, and I'm going to do that in a way for the overall health and well-being of this entire organization. Every soul that is part of us and is in our care, the decisions that we make are going to be to protect the well-being of all. And once we start making certain exceptions and allowances for one, that's when the cracks enter, and when we will start to take out water. And I'm going to stop using metaphors right now because I'm going way off any point that makes any sense. So we can say that it's a celebration to see those men in suits coming into 147, to our home office, our headquarters, that has been inaccessible to me, to anybody that has worked there, whose office is there. We can we'll celebrate that, but we celebrate that, and part of the reason we see these low numbers, and I believe that we're looking at a brighter future, are because of the strict and rigorous decisions that we made in compliance and in accordance with guidance that we've received from the state and local ordinances that have brought us to this point. But because of the families' compliance with and understanding of what we're trying to do, we're looking at the lowest numbers of COVID in our organization that we've had since we really first began to see cases, and it was never very high, comparatively speaking, to what some agencies are facing, and now with some of the expanded testing, that we're going to be doing a huge testing up at our Westford location on Monday. But I believe it's because of the diligence of our amazing staff, our nursing team, and really, frankly, the whole organization that has been led by Sharon Pitts around this issue, and Dan Lannon, and all the people that have worked to protect, first and foremost, the health and safety of the men and women in our care. And families, if we didn't care and if we didn't love your children as much as we do, it wouldn't even matter. You wouldn't see me here, and I wouldn't be making this an issue. But after talking with Dan Lannon earlier today, I felt that it deserves some time to bring you along where I am in my head. We're still maybe weeks away from where this decision is going to really become a relevant feature, but this is probably the direction that we're heading in. But it's still good news, because it means we're moving further away from the crisis. All right, before I ask Greg if there's any questions that have come in, I want to wrap this thing up. We've got a great Unity Forum scheduled for you guys tomorrow. If you haven't taken the time to see one, if you're a family out there that's watching today and you've never made yourself available to see it, it's really a great experience. We hear from just our wonderful team, our just outstanding group of people. These are our employees that are showing up every day and on the front lines working with our clients. And tomorrow we're going to be honoring our crew from Westford. We're going to be hearing from some folks that have been hearing about their experiences and how they have brought their A game to this organization when we needed it most. And I'm looking forward to seeing. Notice I don't say any names, because it seems like when I do, I'm testing fate. And we've had so many cases where at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock on Friday, somebody is not able to join us. So let's just say that we've got 4 or 5 people like in the wings, ready to help us out and to share their stories with us tomorrow. And it's always a terrific way for me to end up my week, and I hope it is for all of you too, as we celebrate the greatness of this terrible set of circumstances, but the greatness that we as a community have emerged on the other side to confront it, to combat it, and to make life better throughout, no matter what. Greg, are there any questions you think I should be aware of or answer before we wrap this thing up? And I'd be happy to do so.
Just a couple positive comments. The first is in response to the NuPath Heroes, and it's from Jim Sullivan. Thank you from a very grateful board. The next.
Thank you, Jim. We need to hear from our board. That's awesome.
The next is from a staff over at the Martin Center, and Kathy Downing, and she said, positive comment. Sunday night, Justin organized a Zoom meeting for the Martin Center staff. He allowed all of us to connect with each other. I truly enjoyed it. We all agreed to meet every Sunday night. Martin Center has got this. So just wanted to share that.
Right on, Kathy Downing. That's I appreciate you sharing that information. I've heard from you a few times over this, and I always enjoy hearing from you and all the others. By the way, all of you, I've heard some great stuff, some amazing forms of encouragement. But that's an example. You think the staff of the Martin Center? Let's just say this: I would not have thought the staff at the Martin Center would be the first group to get together on a Zoom meeting every Sunday night. If you told me that 7 weeks ago, I would have laughed, probably. But this is how one example of how we have become inspired through this challenge and this obstacle to maybe, maybe reach areas of ourselves that we never thought we would. And good job, Martin Setter. You guys got this. Yeah, you sure do. Great to hear. Is that it,
That's
Greg?
it. That's it, D.
All right. Well, I'm going to just conclude today by once again just saying with deepest humility and with all my gratitude that I can, how what an honor it's been to continue to lead this organization through a time of such uncertainty. Every day, every single day, I am become aware of examples of heroic behavior, and to see the way that we have responded organizationally makes me just so proud, and just so proud to be a part of this family. You guys are phenomenal, great. I love you all, and we got this. We got this, and things are gonna get better. We'll see. All right, guys. See you tomorrow. Make sure you tune in, and talk to you then. Bye bye.